Yeah. So that lady down the bottom there is our, and I'm going to start from my generation, from under me. I can't remember if it's your great or whatever.
Sorry,
but my great grandmother is meeting Hemi Apo. Now Auntie Dixie's great grandmother, is a sister to this one here. So that's our relationship with all the cook whānau down at Kaimomo. And there's another sister that all the Haggers, the main whānaus at Kaimomo, the Hagger, the cooks and the Haggers, and other whānaus as well. So that's just our connection with Auntie Dixie. So when we go down today, most of our whānau have seen the Hagger book there, and in that Hagger book really has been all this side here. And so that's my grandfather, Frederick Henry Hagger, and of course he'll be your great and so on. He's my great-grandfather, Frederick James Hagger, and his wife Georgina Balnevis, and her parents are the Colonel Balnevis and Marianne Hineahuarangi Hairepo. Her father signed the treaty on behalf of Whakatohia tribe down in the Pōtiki, and our marae associated to Rangi Hairepo down there is Waiawa marae. And so if ever you're down in that area, go to the Whakatohia Trust Board, they'll welcome you. There's whānau down there. He was her second marriage, and you'll see in the book that she was originally married to a Lawrence, and so a lot of those Lawrence whānau down in the Pōtiki. And when we went to see them, my husband and I in January, their arms are just so wide open. They know about the Hagger whānau, and they were just so welcoming for us to go down there. So introduce yourself. You are part of that Whakapapa. And so, yeah. He was one of the last sheriffs of Auckland, the Colonel. He's buried in Whanau, and if you're ever in the area, it's a long tombstone, pretty much like that, and flat, no upright stone, but all his writing is along the bottom of his tombstone. And in the book you'll see that was a huge procession. All the mayors, all the dignitaries, horse-drawn carriages, senior this and sir this, and all the dignitaries of Auckland, and they marched him up where the old farmers is, and all the way through to Parnell, and so he's buried there. His father was Governor of Malta for 3 years. Oh, wow. And so we come from a very rich heritage, and that's why I try and encourage our whānau, be upright, know who you are, be proud of who you are, but still be humble. All right, still be humble. And I find with all our Hagger whānau, my aunties and uncles, they were so humble people, and they weren't loud. They got their message across by doing, and when they did spoke, there was just so much wisdom in what they said and did. Okay, so this part is a lot in the Hagger whānau book, and because they were sort of up there, the Colonel and his father, a lot of this information is available online. If you were to Google it, you'll see lots of stuff written up, which is half the stuff in that book anyway. And also if you go to the Auckland Museum, he was in the 58th Regiment. If you go to the Auckland Museum, their flag is still flying there. It was in the High Court of New Zealand in Auckland, but now it's up in the museum. As far as I know, I haven't actually been to see it. It's a trip that I need to make, and so that's them. Margaret did not have any of this side of the family when she wrote the book. She didn't know any connections to our grandfather, Frederick Colin Hagger, or Frederick Henry, as he's named on some documents. His wife was Ngāwini Hemi Ngāpo, and so she didn't have any of Ngāwini's Whakapapa at the time. And so over the years I've managed to gather a lot of that and that is in this book here, that Mum has been over 10 years coming up to visit me. Every time she comes on goes my recorder, on goes my video, and I just write down everything that she's been sharing about the history on this side of the family.
You want to ask some?
If you've got any questions, yeah, button.
So I said, Frederick, that was the first or the second? You said Frederick.
So his father was Frederick James.
Yeah.
The son is Frederick Henry or Frederick Colin, he was known as. Right. And then, of course, we had Uncle Freddie, one of the sons. So those names are carried on. With Marianne Hine Ahua Rangi Hairepo, Marianne, Mum got that, I got that. I'm privileged.
Yeah.
So, so on the other side of Frederick, the one down the bottom, our grandfather, his wife Ngāwini Hemingāpo, this is her biological parents. So we've got Hemingāpo here, and Mere Maihi. Now Mere Maihi was from Pawarenga, so Mum and them were always told when they were growing up, your hapu is ngā uri o tai. So that's your fella's hapu as well, ngā uri o tai to Pawarenga.
Wow.
Plus you've got other hapus, and Dixie knows those better than I do in Kaimomo. But they were always ngā uri o tai Pawarenga, so that ties us all into Te Rārawa.
So that's Granddad's biological mother and father?
No, grandmothers, the grandmothers.
Grandmothers,
Yeah,
okay.
we don't have a photo of her, so it was his wife, Ngāwini, my nana, so it'd be your great or great-greats. So his wife is her parents over there, all right? Now in the original photo of this, which I can pull out on my computer and show you and have it running later, but in this photo, Mum always used to say she's seen a photo of her mother.
Wow.
Mum was only 13 months old when her mother died, and so she can't remember her at all, but she had seen a photo. And in the original of this, they've got a little 3-year-old sitting on their lap, which I have on my computer, and that's Nana. That's Ngāwini. But the photo, sadly, is distorted. I tried to dolly these two up just to bring onto this board. Hers is very distorted. So my cousin, who's got the original, I want to get it and take it in and get it done, because it's the only photo we've got of Nana when she was about 3 years old. So Mere Maihi, Hemingāpo, you'll read in the book, they always talked about Granny Winaka. Granny Winaka was the sister of Mere. Granny Winaka, these two, from what is being researched by some of our Hemi whānau, had 22 children. Some of them were whāngaid, but 22, so these two gave Ngāwini to Granny Winaka.
Those that were whāngaid, does anyone know who they were like?
They usually come from the sisters or the brothers. They were still in the
so
family.
They're still in the whānau.
They're still in the whānau, yeah. So whenever you used to hear your parents or your grannies or anything talking about Granny Winaka, it was Granny Winaka that they knew. Mum said if this one ever walked in the room, she wouldn't know who she is. It was always to Granny Winaka that all the siblings, Mum's line, always went to Granny Winaka. Granny Winaka was the owner of the land. It didn't come through the Hagger whānau, it came through the Maihi whānau.
Okay.
And so that's our connection to the land down there. And Dixie knows a lot more about that, on the purchase and everything of some of the lands down there. So yeah, those are our biological. Sadly, we don't have a photo of Granny Winaka, who the family adored. They loved her. When Ngāwini died, it was Granny Winaka who brought all the siblings, whole 11 of them, she brought them up.
Wow.
And of course she had help from a lot of people, Eamon Hika, Pirimona, who's a brother to Ngāwini. They all helped her on the land and with the children. Arapeti, which was their brother, who Mum always thought was actually her grandfather, but he was actually her uncle. But Mum loved him dearly because he really treated her as his own. And she used to call him Granddad. So that's pretty much it. So when we go down to Kaimomo, you're going to see the graves of these ones here. not her. We don't know where she's buried. We've never found out where she's buried. We're thinking somewhere down in Opotiki, or even in Auckland, because they were living in Auckland when he was sheriff. And so we've never managed to locate her grave. And even the Opotiki people, they're not sure either where she went to. But you'll see these ones, the graves of these two here, our great-grandparents, and the graves of this one, and also the graves of Nana, Ngāwani, down at Kaimama, and a lot of aunties and uncles all buried down there. With the urupa, korero.
Oh, waiting for you.
Oh, ka pai. So with the urupa, our name, Miriana Maihi, Remo Pene, who's our grandfather, they brought into the land down there, the Haggers, the cooks, and so that's a whanau urupa down there. So any of our whanau can go there, and you know, if we want to take any of our whanau back there to be buried. Any pātai? Any questions?
Beautiful.
Oh,
Rich history.
yeah, very rich history.
Now go and ask them if they remember what you said.
It's all
Because I've tried and it's still not right.